A young man would go out to return an item to the shed behind his house in the middle of the day, and he has never been seen since. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of Branson Perry. Viewer discretion is advised. Real quick before we get started, of course, hello, my name is Mike. If you're new to the channel, I tell 3 true crime stories every single week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So please subscribe if you're into that kind of weird thing like the rest of us. If you prefer true crime stories in more short form, then follow me over on TikTok. I have about 3 million followers over there or so, but I post at least 1 or 2 videos there every single day. You can find the link to it. It'll pop up here at the beginning and also at the end of the video, but it's also in the link tree in the description of this video below. You'll also find my merch store there. We sell like shirts and hoodies and stuff. We ship all over the entire world as well. And then lastly, if there's a case you want me to cover, just email me. My email is listed below. Just email me the name of the case, where it happened, when it happened. I'll add it to the list. I got over 5,500 names on that list, so it may take me a while to get to that one because I pick my cases at random, but I will get to it eventually. Yeah? Question mark? Yeah. Stop it, Mike. Anyway, let's get into today's story. Branson Perry was born on February 24th, 1981, and he was raised in Missouri. He graduated from Nottoway Holt High School in 1999. He would end up getting work as like a roofer, doing some like construction type things after high school, but that really didn't pan out for him, and then he eventually would end up working at a petting zoo. A job he liked but probably didn't love, but he was, trying to find better work as he was doing, the work at the petting zoo. Branson, at the time of this case, was living with his dad, Bob, in his family home that he grew up in, which is actually, I guess, specifically in Skidmore, Missouri. His parents were divorced. Branson was basically considered a really good kid. He was always well behaved, maybe a little quiet at times. He led a relatively just normal life for someone his age. He never got in trouble with the law. He didn't run with the wrong crowd, at least that people thought at the time. And yeah, he kind of just, he was there, and then one day he was not. The bizarre events started on April 7th, 2001. That afternoon, Branson, who is now 20 years old, he went over to his neighbor's house. His neighbor was Jason Bierman. Apparently, this neighbor, Jason, gave Branson some sort of illegal substance, some kind of pill or something. And it took effect in Branson really quickly, and it changed Branson. He became just very eccentric there on the spot. He stripped his clothes. He was completely nude in front of Jason. He shaved his pubic hair off. He started dancing around in like this seductive kind of way, and he ends up having some kind of sexual encounter with the neighbor, Jason. The following day, Branson tells his dad about what happened, and his dad is like immediately pissed off because like this guy just gave his son some sort of drug and then had sex with him. His dad would say, like, I always kind of suspected that Branson may be gay, but we never really knew for sure. And to be honest with you, I don't know for a fact if Branson is gay or not. He was under some pretty heavy influence when he had this encounter with the neighbor. But Branson's dad said, all right, I'm going to go have a talk with him tomorrow. But that altercation never came. The dad never actually went over to the neighbor's house to confront him, and so nothing ever came of it. This takes us to Wednesday, April 11th, 2001. He had a friend over. His friend's name was Jenna, and she came over to help Branson clean the house. At this point, I guess within a day or so after the incident with the neighbor happened, Branson's dad is in the hospital he's getting treatment for something. So he wasn't home on this day, and he doesn't live with his mom, and his mom was, wherever she was living. The friend was there cleaning, and there was also, I guess, 2 mechanics outside in the front yard fixing Branson's dad's vehicle. Something was wrong with it, so they were fixing it. So at around 3 p.m., Branson and the friend had finished up cleaning. The mechanics were still there. Apparently at one point, according to the friend, one of the mechanics came into the house and was looking at a cabinet She asked, hey, what are you looking for? And he's like, nothing. And he kind of just left. And then as she's upstairs, she had just taken a shower. She's looking out the window. She sees Branson. This is a little after 3 p.m. now. Branson has walked out of the house with something in his hands. She screams out from the window, hey, what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm going to go put these jumper cables back in the shed, and then I'm going to go out for a few, but I'll be back shortly. Branson was seen walking towards the shed to, I guess, put these jumper cables in the shed, and then nobody saw him ever again. This is in the middle of the day. He never got back home later that afternoon. The friend said, she waited, but he never came home. And so eventually I think she took off. And Branson had been visiting his dad. Every time I guess his dad's in the hospital, Branson would go there every night to visit him. But he didn't go that night. At one point, Branson's grandma goes over to the house to check in on Branson because, no one had seen or heard from him. When she gets there, she sees the front door is open, but nobody's there. Nobody's in the house. He's a 20-year-old kid who sometimes goes off on his own and, he always comes back kind of thing. And like I said, he never got into any kind of trouble. So no one was super worried at that point. But that being said, his grandma was asking people around town, had they seen him, and nobody said they had seen him. By April 16th, 2001, no contact at all from him. And so Branson Perry is officially reported missing. Branson brought nothing with him. Every single thing he owned, other than the clothing that was literally on his back that day, was at the house. Everything. He had no money, nothing. And almost immediately, police kind of felt that this was a foul play scenario. They organized ground searches for him, grid searches. They searched, the traditional ways on foot. They searched by air. They looked throughout every wooded area, any bodies of water that may have been there, they looked in those. There were a lot of abandoned buildings in the area. They combed through every single one of those, and again, they just found nothing, no sign of Branson. Police had been given the information that Branson had said he was returning jumper cables into this shed. So they searched the shed that was behind the Perry house. There was no jumper cables inside of it. There was no jumper cables outside of it. There was no jumper cables inside the house. But then, I guess a couple of weeks later, the jumper cables were found just inside the door of the shed, I believe. How it was missed initially, I'm not sure. Or was it put there after the fact? I don't know. So police begin to interview all of the friends and acquaintances of Branson's, and they start to get a picture. The friend who was with, Branson that day, Jenna, she would tell police that Branson had recently started experimenting with drugs. Stuff like marijuana, but also kind of dipping into some of the stronger stuff. He had a bottle of Valium that would have probably been on his person because it was never found in the house. His family was surprised to hear about this drug situation because he never indicated or showed any signs of this being part of his life. He did a really good job of hiding it. So through their investigation, police, get names of certain people who may have dealt to Branson or people that Branson may have been involved with in the drug world. And so they interview all those people, but all of them claim they have no knowledge of what happened to Branson. And that's it. They're just meh, we don't know. End of story. As they're kind of doing that, there's also this theory that I think his dad at one point said, there's always a possibility because they didn't have a working car at the time because it was being worked on, that maybe he hitchhiked to relatives outside of town, or maybe that was his plan, was to hitchhike outside of town, but maybe he ran into the wrong person while he was hitchhiking because he was confirmed to not be at those relatives' homes. On April 10th, 2003, a couple of years after he disappears, police get a bizarre piece of information. A 59-year-old man named Jack Wayne Rogers, who was a former Presbyterian pastor and also a former Boy Scout leader. You probably know where this is going. Well, he was arrested for first-degree assault charges and practicing medicine without a license because he, for whatever reason, was trying to do a gender reassignment surgery on a trans individual, even though he had no license to do so. He had no knowledge of how to do so. So he was essentially caught for that. And then while searching his home, they find a treasure trove, a mountain of disgusting crap on his computer. And I'm sure you probably know where this is going now. Yes, child pornography. They also found he had an online persona named Bugger Butt, where he would talk about some pretty horrific stories that it sounds like he told these stories in the first person, like he was saying, like basically saying like this is actually something he did. He talked about cannibalizing young men, how he had castrated young men and eaten their genitals. He talked about graphic torture he performed. He also said in one of these stories that he picked up a blonde hitchhiker near the Ozarks, which would have been the area where, Branson may have vanished from, and that he was killed, that this hitchhiker was killed and then buried. And so that's how he became roped into the Branson Perry disappearance. While searching this guy's car, Jack Wayne Rogers, they found a necklace. It was a turtle claw necklace, something that you don't really see that often. It was damn near identical to a necklace that Branson wore all the time. That necklace was nowhere at the house, nowhere in the shed, nowhere anywhere. Jack Wayne Rogers says, those stories are just, fiction. They're just me storytelling. That's not actually real. I never even met Branson Perry. I don't know who he is. And he didn't mention his name in the story either. But he was a suspect in this for a little bit of time at least. And Jack Wayne Rogers goes on trial for everything else, including the child pornography. He gets over 50 years in prison combined for all of these things. Branson Perry's mom would later come out stating that she really doesn't think that this person, even though he is sick, she doesn't think he had anything to do with Branson's disappearance. And honestly, it kind of sounds like police seem to kind of think that as well, that he may have just been a red herring, or that he just didn't fit the bill all the way. However, they have not really yet completely ruled him out, but he has sort of kind of been pushed down the list. The angle that police are really, really working on is this drug angle. They really believe that the drug world had something to do with this disappearance. Perhaps Branson Perry left the house that day to meet up with someone to purchase something, or who knows what. It's not really known for sure. But they did confirm that he was in contact with numerous people in this, local drug community, but all of those people won't say a damn thing. And police believe that these people probably have more information and they probably know something, but it's the drug world. They don't want to say anything. They want to protect their own. They don't want to implicate themselves in any kind of crime. And so they have remained stubbornly tight-lipped about anything to do with this case. Sadly, Branson's dad passed away in 2004. His mother died from a melanoma in 2011. So both of his parents died never knowing what happened to their son and never knowing if he was alive or deceased or who took him and why. They never got answers. Back in 2009, though, police did announce that they were doing an excavation at a property in Missouri, that they were going to be digging, I guess, based on information they got in a tip. I'm assuming about possible human remains. However, that excavation led to absolutely nothing. A farmer had released some information over the years that apparently at one point police searched his property near a well, that there was tips that Branson may be down this well in this property, but that search also led to nothing. Not a trace of any evidence whatsoever. On August 14th, 2022, the police there investigating this disappearance announced that they have a suspect in mind. There is a suspect that they are, I guess, pursuing. However, they have not released that suspect's name as far as I could tell, and they haven't released if they know anything else outside of that. To my knowledge, Branson Perry has not been found. No trace of him has ever been found, meaning there have been no articles of clothing. This pill bottle he may have had, never found. None of his, finances have ever been used. His social security number has never been used. Branson Perry, on that day in 2001, walked towards a shed in the middle of the day on his own property, and he just poofed into thin air. You may be wondering, what about those two mechanics who were outside the house? What did they see? Nothing, apparently. His friend saw and heard nothing. These two mechanics saw and heard nothing. These two guys, are they suspects? I don't know. Did they look into them? I would hope they did. But as far as I know, they were there after, Branson vanished. So probably not, but you know, I'm not sure. As a side note, Branson Perry had a cousin named Bobby Joe Sinnett. In 2004, Bobby Joe was murdered in the same town. That case was solved and had nothing to do with Branson's disappearance, but it just goes to show that this family has been through a lot of tragedy. But as of now, Branson Perry has never been found. Nobody has said anything about what happened to him on that day in 2001. You may also be wondering, well, what about that neighbor, Jason, the guy that drugged Branson a couple days prior? As far as I know, he's never been named a suspect. I know police know about what happened, but they have never said anything about him being considered, you know, a suspect in this. Like I said, there was no confrontation that ever happened between Branson's dad and this guy. And so the guy never even knew Branson had told his dad. And so there was never really like necessarily a reason for the guy to like suddenly kill Branson, unless maybe to silence him for what he did. But I guess it's a possibility. However, I have to believe police looked into him and cleared him, or at least pushed him down the list, because he's never been a focal point. But here we are now in January of 2024 as I'm filming this. Branson Perry has never been found. He just vanished. Unbelievably, he just vanished. And that's not possible. People can't do that. People can't just be there 1 second and then gone. Something happened to him. And somebody knows what happened to him. There are at least 2 people on this planet who always know what happens in every case like this. There is always the victim. Unfortunately, they usually can't talk because they are gone. And then the perpetrator. Always at least 2 people. Which means that if Branson Perry was killed that day, or any days afterwards, his killer knows what happened, and killers love to talk. Especially if it was involved in the drug world, that kind of thing tends to circulate a lot. So the odds are is that somebody somewhere out there definitely knows the truth about what happened to Branson Perry, and perhaps that someone is you. Branson's parents died never knowing what happened to their boy. His remaining family, his friends, his acquaintances, everybody who loved him wants to know where he is. They want to be able to lay him to rest. They have a grave for him with a headstone and everything, which is actually buried next to his mom. They know he's probably dead, and they just want to be able to lay him to rest next to his mother. So please, if you have any information, please contact the local police there in Skidmore, Missouri, and please tell them what you know. You don't have to say who you are, you just have to say what it is you know. Please help Branson and his family find peace. Please help Branson finally get laid to rest, and help Branson Perry and his family get the justice they all rightfully deserve. But that is it for this case. True crime, rooney dooney dingleberry dongle donga donga dongles. Gross. I hope you found it interesting. As usual, please subscribe, give this video a like so more people can see it, because you never know, it takes that one person to see this video or any video about Branson for this case to be, possibly solved. So, but that is it for the video. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Sayonara. Konnichiwa. Nope. Aloha. Arrivederci. Is that a floopida blankenship? That is Hungarian for goodbye. No, it isn't. Maybe it is. Could be. Nope, it definitely isn't, Mike. I think it is. No. Look it up. Nope. I don't need to look it up because I'm not smart to know. Anyway. Guten Tag! That was so offensive. I sincerely apologize. I'm trying to say goodbye in every language, or hello, maybe? I don't even know. Because English is barely my first language, and only. It's hard. It's a difficult language. We have a lot of silent letters. Where am I going with this? I really don't know. I'm very unhinged. If you're new to the channel, I'm trying to master saying goodbye, my outro. It'll come one day. I've only been doing this for like a year and a half, so give me some time, all right? Let me think the process through. Trust the process. Ukenschlackenspiel. Swedish for goodbye. Nope. Once again, no. Okay. Well, you're probably gone by now, so yeah, see you later.